Welcome to End of Life University on YouTube. I'm Dr. Karen Wyatt, and today I'm sharing with you a tutorial on how to choose a healthcare proxy. This is actually one of the most important decisions you can make as you plan ahead for the end of life. And that's one reason I want to talk about it here. One of the most common mistakes I see for people doing their end of life planning is choosing a person as their healthcare proxy who's not really well suited for that job. So, we're going to cover how to choose the very best person to represent you and speak for you if you are ever not able to speak up for yourself about your own healthcare wishes. So remember, if you're 18 or older, you should have a healthcare proxy and have a legal document that gives the right to that person to make healthcare decisions for you if you're not able to make them for yourself. And once again, it's important. So I've got some slides to share with you. We'll take a look at those right now. And we'll move into this topic. I also have a handout for you on guidelines for choosing a healthcare proxy. It's actually guidelines for the proxy that you can give to a person you choose as your proxy to know what they need to do and how to serve your interests the best as a healthcare proxy. So this little module on choosing a healthcare proxy is actually one part of my course, Step-by-Step Roadmap for End of Life Planning. And I'll leave a link for this course if you're interested in doing the entire process of your end of life plans and advanced directives. You can take this self-paced online course if you're interested in that. Otherwise, just pay attention to this little module if you'd like some advice on choosing the best healthcare proxy for you. So we're going to look at what is a healthcare proxy, the responsibilities of a healthcare proxy, steps the proxy needs to follow in order to help you and represent you, and then finally choosing your best spokesperson. So first of all, what is a healthcare proxy in the first place? And you've probably heard of a financial proxy or someone with financial power of attorney. And a healthcare proxy is someone who similarly makes decisions for you if you're not able to make them for yourself. But these are all decisions regarding healthcare and what type of healthcare you receive. Other names for this position are healthcare agent. There's also durable medical power of attorney or durable power of attorney for healthcare. Each state here in the US seems to have a different name for this position. So when you get your official forms to fill out for your state, you'll have to see how they refer to this person, but just know it's a spokesperson who interacts with the medical system on your behalf to let them know your wishes and what type of health care you would like to receive. And primarily, just for the interest of this conversation, we're talking about whether or not you would want to be on life support for a prolonged period of time, meaning being on a ventilator, if you can't breathe for yourself, essentially keeping you alive for a period of time if you would die if you were removed from the ventilator. Life support is sometimes the biggest decision any of us have to make as we're looking ahead at our advanced healthcare wishes. Healthcare proxies are oftentimes called upon to be involved when these decisions are being made on our behalf at the end of life. So I just wanted to put that out there for you. So the responsibilities of the healthcare proxy include, first of all, to learn the end of life preferences of the person you have agreed to represent. So let's say you are a healthcare proxy for someone else. It's very important to know the preferences of the person you're representing. Second, to keep a copy of the advance directive forms for the person you're advocating for. Third, to know the person you represent well enough to have familiarity with the types of choices he or she might make in a crisis situation. It's essential. Your healthcare proxy has to know you, know what you value and what you care about, because all types of situations could arise at the end of life, and these are challenging decisions to make. The more your proxy knows about you, the better they will be able to make decisions in your best interest and to follow your wishes and how you would like to be cared for at the end of life. In addition, that your healthcare proxy has to engage with medical personnel to find out the options that are available. So this person will have to talk to doctors on the medical team and ask questions, find out what the possibilities are, and really get involved in meetings and discussions with medical personnel. So, again, asking questions to make sure they understand the medical condition of the patient and being strong enough to advocate for the wishes of the patient, even if others do not agree. This is a really important point because you can be in a situation in a medical facility, a hospital in particular, or ICU, where the doctors involved have very strong opinions about what should or should not be done. If what doctors recommend does not align with what you want, you need to have a healthcare proxy who's strong enough to stand up to them and say, no, no, my person would want something else, would make a different choice. And here's how I know that, because we've talked about it multiple times over the last 2 years, and I know exactly what my person would prefer. So, having enough strength to be able to advocate with the medical profession is a very important quality for the healthcare proxy. So, here's some steps the healthcare proxy will need to follow. First of all, getting comfortable talking and thinking about the end of life. If you are going to be a proxy for someone else, or you're choosing someone else to be your proxy, it's important that that person be able to talk about death and dying and think about it and not need to run away from it or stifle any conversation about it. So that's something important for the proxy. And so, again, have an in depth conversation with the person you're representing about their hopes, wishes, and expectations for the end of life. So, if you're choosing someone to represent you, they have to be willing to sit down and listen to you and really explore with you what you value, what you care about, and what you would like to have happen at the end of life. When a medical crisis occurs, this person serving as a healthcare proxy needs to be available to talk with doctors and get an understanding of the situation, the prognosis, tests or procedures being recommended. The person doesn't necessarily have to live in the same community. They could be far away and they could have meetings by telephone or conference call or over Zoom to discuss it. But the person has to be capable of setting aside some time for these meetings to take place. So you need to choose someone who at least has enough availability that they could actually show up for you when needed. Next, the proxy has to make the best decision possible based on the knowledge of what the patient wants. And sometimes this is a really tough situation to be in. It's actually a hard job to be a healthcare proxy for someone. You can be making really life or death decisions for the person you're representing. And it's important that you have enough information about the patient in order to make the best decision possible. And also, if you're not sure in the moment what the patient would choose, because oftentimes situations arise that have never been talked about. A situation, say, oh, this person needs a certain type of surgery, but you'd never discuss that type of surgery with this person. Maybe they need dialysis, but you've never had a conversation about dialysis. You have to use what you know about the patient's wishes to extrapolate and apply that information to other choices in order to choose what you believe is in the best interest of the patient. And then also be able to communicate with the patient's family members, because if you're the person doing the decision making, you may get questions from those who have not been chosen as the healthcare proxy, who don't agree with you or who want to get more information about how you know this is what the this is what the loved one wants for their wishes. So I'm speaking as if you were the healthcare proxy, because sometimes that's the very best way for you to figure out who to choose. You imagine yourself in that role, and then you think of who that you know could do the best job playing that role. So this idea of communication is extremely important. You need to choose someone who's comfortable talking and listening to other people. So we'll get into now how you can choose your best spokesperson. So first of all, most of us think of a family member or a close friend, someone that we trust. Trust is essential because we have to know in advance this person truly will show up for me. If they tell me, I'll do this for you, I'll be there, I'll advocate for you, we have to be able to trust and know that they really will show up for us. So that goes without saying. Whoever this person is has to be trusted. It also has to be someone who understands and agrees with your wishes, agrees with, because some of these decisions around life and death, around do we continue life support or not, those are challenging decisions for people, particularly based on their values or their own morals. And someone who advocates for you has to be able to agree with what you want enough that they're capable of advocating for it. If it's someone who disagrees with the idea of discontinuing life support, but you've asked them to advocate for that on your behalf, that person is going to be very conflicted in the moment and will have a difficult time making that decision on your behalf and standing up for it to the medical profession. So again, someone who basically agrees with your wishes, agrees that that would be the right thing for you to choose. Another person to consider is someone who just knows the most about your end of life wishes. Maybe it's someone you've already talked to a lot and had conversations with, who understands what it is that you want at the end of life. The person that you've been intimate enough with and close enough with that you have confided in about things that you want at the end of your life. Maybe there isn't a person in your life who does know very much about your wishes, so you're starting from scratch. But as we've said already, someone who will listen and someone who understands and is likely to agree with you. The fourth criteria that I stress is this person has to be emotionally strong enough to make a difficult decision during a crisis. Oftentimes, people just default and say, my spouse will be my healthcare proxy, or my oldest child will be my healthcare proxy. But it's important to think about the fact, if a crisis has occurred, there's been, a terrible accident or a terrible healthcare crisis, the person you choose may be in shock or may be grieving or may have a lot of conflicting emotions they're experiencing in the moment. To ask that person to make a life or death decision for you may be adding on a burden that is too much for that person to bear. That person may come away from that decision making feeling guilty, or feeling that somehow they caused whatever the outcome was, they caused your death or caused you to suffer in some way, if they have this responsibility of making the decision with medical personnel on your behalf. So think clearly about that. Who is emotionally strong enough to make this decision without being burdened by it, without feeling guilty, and who also would not be intimidated about disagreeing with doctors or even disagreeing with other family members if that is necessary in order to fulfill your wishes. So when you think about it, sometimes a spouse or your oldest child is not the right person, because that may be someone who simply would be overwhelmed in this situation with shock and grief, too emotional, too shattered, really, to be able to stand up and make this decision. Some people do better choosing a relative or a friend who's one step removed from that kind of intimacy, the closeness of being a family member. So as you think about who is this person, who's the right person for you, to make these choices, as you can see, it's important. If you choose someone who isn't up to the task or someone who disagrees with you, you could easily end up not having your wishes fulfilled or honored at the end of life. So it does matter who you choose and why you choose them. So again, as you look through who you want to make this choice for you, who you want to be your healthcare proxy, I suggest perhaps make a list. You could start with who in your life do you trust the most? And it'd be great if you had 5, 8, 10 people on that list, a lot of people to begin with, all the people that you trust, that you know have your back, that will stand up for you and will show up and come through for you. And next, look at, of that list, who on that list is most likely to agree with you and see the end of life similarly to you, and understand why you are making the choice you want to make and feel okay about that, feel good about that. You could also look at who on this list already knows the most about medical situations or about your wishes or your healthcare in general, who already has a knowledge and an understanding of it, so that you're not starting from scratch. And perhaps there isn't someone on your list, as I said already, who does know a lot about what you want. Maybe you've never discussed it before. So that's okay. That doesn't eliminate anyone. It's just that there might be a person who would stand out amongst others as someone you've already had conversations with, who would be a natural fit for your healthcare proxy. And then the fourth, as I mentioned already, who is strong enough? So again, a spouse or your oldest child might be someone you totally trust, who agrees with you, who knows what you want, but who simply may not have the emotional fortitude or strength in a moment of crisis to represent you. And maybe it would be unfair to burden that person. So make your list first of who you trust. Circle the names of all the people who agree with your wishes. If anyone knows the most, that person stands out. And who on this list is strong enough. And so hopefully you'll find someone with 3 of these characteristics: trust, agrees with you, and strong enough, who stands out in your list of people as the right person for you to ask. But here's another thing to remember: you need to ask more than one person. And it's actually important to have a surrogate or a secondary healthcare proxy, just in case the person you've chosen for some reason can't represent you. Maybe they're sick or injured, or maybe they're out of the country. Maybe something has happened and they're not able to be there. You need a secondary healthcare proxy. So it's great if you had come up with 2 or 3 names on your list. Also, the person you ask, first of all, to do this for you may not want the responsibility, may say no. So it's helpful if you have a few names on the list that you can call upon to do this for you. So what you need to do next is make sure that your person agrees to the responsibility. The person that you're thinking of, you have to have a conversation with them. You have to sit down. I have a handout for you, guidelines for a healthcare proxy, that you can show them, which tells them what their responsibilities will be if they choose to be your proxy. So they'll know ahead of time, what am I signing on for? What will this entail for me if I say yes to this responsibility? And so first of all, make sure they agree and that they're willing to do it. You have to have a detailed conversation with them about your wishes and what you want, so you can make sure they agree with you and that they understand that. Again, choose 2 alternates just in case, if you have to, at least 1 alternate, but 2 if possible. You can give whoever agrees to do this for you, as I said, my handout, the guidelines for a healthcare proxy, so they can keep it and refer to it. Then you have to complete the form. And in most states, it's an advance directive form that has a place where you list your healthcare proxy. You have to complete the form for your state and meet whatever requirements are. Sometimes you have to sign in front of witnesses or even a notary public. So you should get the advance directive forms for your state in order to complete this, make this a legal appointment of your healthcare proxy in your state and follow the instructions on that form. If you take my course, the step-by-step roadmap for end-of-life planning, I have references and resources for how to get the forms for each individual state so that you can look that up. But you can also just Google it and you can find it for yourself, the advance directive forms for the state where you are a resident. You can also use the 5 wishes form, which is good in almost all 50 states. I think there are 4 or 5 states where you have to complete an additional document for 5 wishes to be legal. But don't forget, the conversation you have with the person you've chosen is absolutely essential, that you get their agreement, then completing your form properly according to the requirements of your state, sign in front of witnesses or a notary, and give a copy to your lawyer, a copy to your healthcare proxy, keep one with your records. Another thing I did not list on here is you may need to review the healthcare proxy every 5 years or so, especially if you're a younger person. You may need to make sure that you reevaluate, is this person still the right person for you? Because things change over time. And so you have to look at it again in the future and make sure this is still the person that you want, because you can change your healthcare proxy at any time if for some reason the person you chose is no longer available or interested or the right choice for you, for your wishes. So that's it for my slides. And I hope that's helpful for you as you're thinking about who should be your healthcare proxy. Again, as I said, it's a very important decision. For many people, it's the most important decision, that you've chosen this person and had a conversation with them. Because where people get into trouble in these end of life situations is when they've never told anyone what their wishes are, and they have appointed a specific person to represent their wishes. Then the medical personnel will go to your closest next of kin, who, as we've already said, might not be the best person to make these choices and might be someone who would be overwhelmed and distraught by having to make the choices for you. So think it through, decide who's the best person for you to choose. Be sure down below to click the link for downloading the guidelines. And there's also, as I said, a link if you're interested in doing the whole step-by-step roadmap for end-of-life planning course. You can do that online, self-paced, if that's of interest to you as well. So if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel. Also, subscribe and leave a rating and review for the podcast wherever you happen to listen. And if you're interested in offering a little bit of financial support, maybe making a donation just to help out financially, go to eoluniversity.com/support. There you'll find 3 different ways you can help support this channel and the podcast and keep us on the air. So until the next tutorial, I'll see you later, and keep learning and keep preparing for your own end of life. Bye-bye.